What's going on, Mr. Got Loose?
What up, though, CB? Thanks for
Hey,
having me, brother.
nah, you're good, man. So I'm trying to think if we have any mutual acquaintances. I'm real good friends with Ridge Wilson, played UK. Uh, Alfonso Smith, running back in the
Yep,
league,
Alfonso. We got a
and then I
connection right there.
and then I'm real close with former receiver Larod King.
Larod King. Yeah, I had some communication with Larod King, but not too much though. I believe I was deep in the league by the time Larod was there. Um, but Fonzo, we was there at the same time. And what about Marcel Allen?
No, but I know of him.
Okay, yeah, because he ended up taking over the restaurant, I believe in Louisville and Two Keys, I think it was. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, he ended up merging and pivoting. That was pretty cool. He came in with Dickie Lyons.
I'm sure we can exchange stories about two keys that are probably similar off after this. Never incriminate yourself.
Yeah, we good on that. I mean, I was locked down anyway because I only had 2 years in Kentucky, so I couldn't really mess around. You feel me? I was there on a mission. And Two Keys was there, but I guess I feel like that was the sacrifice I took, I didn't want to go to the clubs and do all the extra stuff because I felt like if I did, then I'm basically doing what I'm acting like I'm in the NFL now. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
still gotta earn that, So I was locked in Kentucky, man. I didn't really explore too much, but I knew of things.
So how did your journey go about you getting into the University of Kentucky? Because you spent
Yeah.
2 years at was it a junior college or a community college prior?
Yep. At the JUCO. Shout out to Chabot College, and I went there out of high school because I had a class that I passed, but it wasn't in clearinghouse. So with me graduating, I had to go to JUCO route. So what
Hmm.
I did was from there, Coach Carragher, Ron Carragher, came in the office and was like, "Hey, I'm from Kentucky." He had that blue, that UK, and I'm like, something is familiar, man. And I
The
remember,
blue's pretty.
yeah, it very. It was just different. That energy was different that he brought. And I just thought back to Tayshaun Prince when he was playing basketball. You feel me? And I was younger at the time, but I seen that blue wave. I seen how he was from California and Kentucky, and
Hmm.
like, dang, I want to be like that dude. You know what I'm saying? At that place. And when Ron Carragher came in after my first year of JUCO, after my first season of JUCO, it was like, dang, that's the same color that I seen back years ago when I was
Yeah.
watching Tayshaun Prince. And from there, I was already hooked. I was just waiting for an offer. And the next thing came was a visit. And then when I took that visit, I was with Wesley Woodyard, and he was a star there, or ascending to be a star. And him and Marcus McClinton, Andre Woodson was there, and Keenan Burton, and what I felt was like this team is trying to build something to be different than just the basketball school. We want to be relevant on the football field. And what I saw from Andre, I was like, you just need some more help. I'm gonna be here to help you. And after
Yeah.
that visit, I was locked in. I just couldn't wait to get on campus.
What was your time like at the University of Kentucky?
It was cool. It was cool. Like I said, I didn't spend much time having fun because
Strictly
that
business.
yeah, it was like strictly business, and if I was having fun, it was on campus. So a lot of us, we would go to the Johnson Center, and I call it it's called the Johnson Center officially, but I call it Johnson Center because of me, because we used to always go hooping there and do our intramurals and everything. And that was the fun for me, like being able to meet the guys from different states, 5-star recruits, other JUCO kids, and then just coming together and building a bond with them. That's what we did. We spent a lot of time with Raphael Little, he was there.
Man.
Yeah, he was there
Oh,
before us. He was a star, but he was coming back with the incoming classes and just like building that bond. And I thought that was pretty
legend.
cool of him. Yeah, he was pretty cool. And then from there, yeah, I mean, you see, we ended up going to that bowl game, and then they ain't stopped ever since.
So how does that make you feel to be part of the process and part of the guys that started helping get Kentucky known as something other than just simply a basketball school? Because I mean, aside from prior to like yours, Bridges, Fonzo's, and LaRod's time there, aside from a few years with Bear Bryant, a year with Curry, and then a year or two with Mummy, there ain't really been anything.
Right, right. And to answer that question wholeheartedly, you kind of feel godly, you know, you kind of, or let me bring it back a little bit. First, you got to be crazy to think that you can go somewhere and actually be the difference. You know what I'm saying? You got to be a little bit crazy. And then when you actually do it and you're in that process of it, and then it's happening, you raising the bowl against Clemson, and then going against Florida State, you raise. It's like, yo, I'm actually doing everything that I said or that I manifested. You know what I mean? Thank you, God.
Yeah.
You know, you got a young God on earth. You know what I mean? And I'm walking that path. And that's a good thing, and it's a bad thing if you don't have the right mentality or a mentor, you know, or
Hmm.
not observing correctly, you know. And I was a little ignorant to it, you know, because it was just so much godly things happening. Like a kid from Hunters Point watching Tayshaun Prince, not even understanding that a California kid can play in Kentucky. But when I seen that, I was inspired. When I seen the blue wave, that was all basketball related, and I was, what was I, probably 12 years. I don't even know how old I was. I was definitely younger
How
to
how old
know.
are you now?
I'm 38 right now. I'll be
So we're
39 this year.
basically the same age. I just turned 40, so we're right around the same age.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I mean, you would understand the times when Tayshaun Prince came there, and
Yep.
we was. So I didn't even know what the SEC was. I didn't know none of that. But years later, when I go to this JUCO route where I was supposed to go to Wyoming out of high school, I was signed to go
Mm.
to be a Wyoming Cowboy, but that class didn't pass the clearinghouse, so I had to go back to JUCO, and then from there I got Kentucky. You know, so that was like a blessing. You know, I'm like, dang, I actually went bigger than what I was going to go to out of high school. So then when you go to Kentucky and they talking about, oh, you guys ain't been to a bowl game, you know, this and that. And then, like you said, get back to the question. Now we're in the process of actually changing the narrative for the football team. It just make you feel like anything you do is golden. Anything you touch can turn gold. And again, when I say I was ignorant to some things, I never felt like a loss. You know what I mean? I never felt a loss in my hands. So then, like later on when it happened, I kind of I didn't know how to handle it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a thin line, but it's good and bad, man. Being in that process, because man, it's such a blessing. You just feel invincible.
All right. So two things stood out to me. You mentioned the word JUCO a few times, and you mentioned the word mentor a few times. Did you ever get the chance to mentor somebody like some of the guys that came before you did while at UK? And how does it make you feel being a product from JUCO to go to SEC conference and then have 7 to 10 year NFL career, getting your start in JUCO? How does that make you feel to be a JUCO product? And then two, as far as the JUCO side of it goes, the naysayers that still sleep on JUCO, it's okay. You
Yeah,
can have great things from coming from JUCO. It ain't just D1.
exactly, exactly, and it makes you feel proven. You know, I
Yep.
felt proven, and I felt like I had a sense of I can go talk to this person or I can talk to that person because that's the type of guy that I am. You know, a mentor type. So when you ask, is there guys that I have mentored? Not super hands-on, but I stay connected to keep that spark.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So even with former Kentucky Wildcats, they're in the league now. But while they was in Kentucky, I was sending messages like all the time, just letting them know like you only got 14 more games, and then you go get your opportunity. So make sure you stay focused and this and that. And you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Just keeping them motivated so they won't get in trouble. Because we hear that a lot, you know, and I'm from an area where not a lot of people get out. So with me making it, I was talking about, you just feel like anything you do is possible, you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, so with that mentorship, that's kind of where you grow in a sense,
Yep.
because you don't have to look up to another person, a person that's older than you, to be a mentor. You can be your peer, just keeping you on track. So I try to dive into that with guys, because for mental health, man, a lot of people don't really open up and ask questions and things like that. So just letting them know that it's cool to communicate.
All right, so that was going to be, I was going to wait till later on in the conversation, but since you brought it up, I'll go ahead and get right to it. How important to you is mental health, and did you ever have any mental health struggles? And before you answer that, anytime somebody does, I always talk about my own too. That way, it's the person doesn't feel unfair. How important is mental health to you, and have you had any mental health struggles? Because I know it's hard. People don't what were people that played in the league for so long have struggles. Is it's what I find out in the guys that I talk to, like Richie Bonifant and David Jones, played with the Ravens, went to UK, guys like that, and Alfonso, is
Yeah.
it's such a hard adjustment mentally because you're so used to the mental grind and the physical grind, and then it just stops. How hard was that adjustment for you, and how important is mental health to you?
Yeah, excellent question. Excellent setup also. It's very important and it's very real. That's what people got to realize is very real. No matter how much money you got, how much fame and success you've had or having, the mental war is always within. It ain't about what we're projecting on the outside. It's always within.
Hmm.
And I can be the first. I'm not the first to attest to this, but those talks and those thoughts that you always have. Maybe you should be doing this, you should be doing more, or you know what I mean? All that type of stuff is constant. So when you're in the NFL, you can have those thoughts, but you got to schedule every minute, dang near every hour. You know what I'm saying? So you're on to the next, and you got many other goals that you can go to that can combat those thoughts.
Hmm.
So when you take a player who's been playing, I'm just using me for instance, from 10 years old all the way to 30 years old with a schedule, and then it just stopped, like you said, now those thoughts are still there. You know what I mean? They're still there. It's natural. Those are natural thoughts. Just want people to know that those
You
those
just don't have an
are natural
excuse to
thoughts.
push it to the back burner, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when it all stops, now you're in a world that's going way slower than what you're used to, because in the NFL things go so fast. You
Yeah.
action, it happens, or you go somewhere, like it's happening. Things just happen so fast, and then when you get in the real world, you got to do a lot of stuff, and it's at a pace. It's at a different pace, and that can mess you up, and that messed me up. I had to take some time and understand why is things happening so slow. I would get frustrated, and that's a part of mental health. And what I did though, I had a family. So when I went to Kentucky, I was married my senior year. So I've been with my high school sweetheart since day one. So when I got out the league, she helped me get past
Gotcha.
that dark patch. You know what I mean? So I was fortunate enough to have somebody around me like that. So I would encourage anybody to stay close to your friends. They don't have to be your girlfriend, wife, or whatever. Even if it's a friend that you can confide and talk to, that's cool. Keep that going. But to go back to my story, that helped me, and she helped me figure out, okay, maybe there's other guys going through this,
Yeah.
so maybe you should start an exposure academy where you can teach other kids how to, communicate, how to clean, how to, what I mean, start their own businesses and brands. Everything that you learned in the NFL from the NFL symposium, you can get it to these microsites, and you can possibly get it out to other NFL athletes. And like that's what ultimately started, my journey out of that dark spot, out of
Yeah.
that space, trying to provide for others and mentorship. So yeah, it's been pretty cool now. And I can say we got different chapters of Club HBHF Exposure Academy in different states now, and ran by other people who you never know what they'll be doing right now, but now they're leaders of communities with young people, and they're teaching them the way. So it's pretty cool, man, having that teammate to help you through things. And a lot of people don't have that.
They don't. Now, sticking on mental health for a few more minutes, did you ever find yourself in a dark place that you maybe didn't think you would be able to get out of?
Um, you know what? I can't say no, no. Not that I wouldn't be able to get out of. I just is either what is going on, like confusion
Gotcha.
or something like that. But I know it. I always get stronger through it, though. You know what I mean? When
Hmm.
that storm, I never had the feeling like it's permanent in a sense. Yeah, and I hopefully everybody else can hear that too. Like it's never permanent, man. You can always get through something. And everybody's going to go through a storm. So you know what I mean? Just keep getting stronger.
All right. Before we get into the NFL, I want to one more thing. What's the hardest thing that you've ever had to overcome in your personal life that people may or may not know?
Well, like the failure, I would say, because like my personal life, I put it all out there.
Right.
I was the type of person to I wanted to put that message out there, how I felt during good times and bad times, so that the next person can read and be like, okay, this celebrity, quote unquote, also felt this way. So I don't have to be feeling isolated as a youth. You know what I'm saying? Because that's who
Hmm.
needs this mentorship the most, the next generations. So I would say when I missed the pass against Pittsburgh Steelers, I I put out a tweet about why God this and that, how I dropped this pass, but it wasn't necessarily about me saying, I mean, he made me miss the pass. It was like why now though? Because like we've been talking about earlier in our interview, everything that I've done has been golden. Every place I went has turned up. And then now all of a sudden, from junior Pee Wee, Pop Warner High School, and NFL, now you want me to make a mistake? Like I was just confused, you know what I'm saying? And I put that out there, and that was one of my toughest times, though. That was literally one of my toughest times. And when I put that message out, I put that message out so that the people can read it. That, like I said, that think, oh, so star players, they don't think this way also,
Hmm.
and I was at a time where I wasn't thinking about viralness or numbers or retweets or none of that stuff. I literally put that message out and then put my phone away, and I was just thinking about how can I get back from that game, and that was that. I didn't even know anything else about how much it went out and this and that until like the next day, and then it was just like, yeah, I guess it is what it is. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this stuff, but I don't take any of it back though, because that was real emotion. That's what I really felt. And it may have been a little ignorant, but ignorance is a bliss at the time, and I understand that as I'm more mature now.
Ah, who gives a shit? It is what it is. And,
Yeah.
what I will say is people put out far worse.
Indeed, indeed. That's why I was confused out how is this blowing up, because
Yeah.
isn't it like everybody's thought? I would assume this was everybody's thought after you let a city down, let your family, your name down. Like you missed the pass wide open, and you never miss stuff. Like you always make the play. Like you know what I mean? You Stevie Johnson, and this happened. Nobody can guard you, and you still don't like. That was just it was just so confusing to me after all of the things like I've accomplished and conquered. Now I get to this stage, and then the easiest pass ever, you miss it, and I put out a natural thought like, why? God was I praise you all the time. We always do the ooh-wop, you know what I mean? And why now? It wasn't even a difficult pass. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I didn't even understand why it went viral either. But it is what it is, like you said.
All right. So let's go to NFL because we've talked about that for the last several minutes. Your time at Kentucky is done. Talk us through like the process of waiting, like
Yeah.
thinking you're going to get drafted at a certain spot, and then waiting. How hard was that? And then talk us through the moment when you finally got the phone call.
Yeah, so I knew I wasn't going to go in the fourth round. I mean, in the first, second, or third round, but I felt like I may go in the fourth round because the Tennessee Titans had two draft picks in that round, and Kentucky played in Tennessee 2 seasons in a row in a bowl game, and I had cool games, decent games enough to where your name could be on the radar, and so I assumed Tennessee was the one. So, we was just waiting around for the draft. The fourth round came by, and uh, Keenan Burton got selected to St. Louis, and then my guy Lavelle Hawkins got selected, and Jacob Tammy, I believe it was, in the fourth, got selected, and
Jacob had a good career.
yeah,
Jacob
he
gets
did.
slept on. He was tough.
Yeah, he was tough, a straight technician, assassin. But yeah, then they got drafted, and then the fifth round came by, and nothing happened. I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like a lot of, I'll start. calling my agent and stuff. Like, what's up? Like, why they not, why they not picking me or this and that? And ain't that like isn't the SEC work? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you led that. And he was just like, nah, anything goes really in these drafts outside of the first and dang near the second round. So I'm like, okay. So we just kicked back. And seventh round came by, and then, Bobby April, our special teams coach, called me. And from there, everything was just let's go to the next level. Let's go to the next level. And finally we on a professional stage where you ain't gotta wait or nothing. You just if you good, you go be playing because it's about money, right? So that was another ignorant thing of me to think. That wasn't how it went though, So after I get
Yeah.
drafted, yeah, seventh round, go to Buffalo. I'm in the camps and stuff. I'm doing good. I feel like I'm doing good, but then I'm barely playing though, and I'm sitting behind other players that I know I can be playing ahead of. And that's where I had to learn about politics. You know what I'm saying? And your draft status, it doesn't mean like you literally on the team. They picked you to see if you can still make the team. And the guys that get picked higher, they're already on the team. So I'm like, yeah, it was just that was a hard point for me because it was hard only for like the first week until I got that mentorship, which is why I love talking about that. I asked one of the vets, what's his name, Lee Evans. I asked Lee Evans and Josh Reed, like why am I not playing? If they know that I can get open, they know I'm doing. They was just like, well, they just gave me the game on how seventh rounder, this and that, and just take your time and just develop and learn things. And I was like, all right, I just accept these checks and just go to practice. Then I guess my hopes was too high for that first season, but I listened to them and just fell in love with practice. I fell in love with going to the scout team and trying things and working with a quarterback called Fitzpatrick and just
It's
carving up the
magic. Fitz
yeah.
magic.
Yep. And then I ended up getting a shot. And when I got in the game, I made the best of it. And they kept me around as a seventh round pick, and they really didn't do that often.
So talk us through that. Like, I looked at your stats last night. Uh, there was like a year or two where you didn't really do much, case in point, what you were just saying. And then you went like on a 3 or 4 year stretch where you had 1,000 yards or more. Talk us through from your mindset just how hard it is to accomplish that 1 year, let alone several years in a row.
To accomplish the years when I'm getting yards or the years when I wasn't.
Well, the years where you have several years in a row of 1,000 or more receiving yards.
Okay, all that was driven off of trying to beat a change. I didn't even know that I was going up to some type of record of being the first to have these consecutive 1,000 yards in Buffalo. I already thought Andre Reed or Eric Mose had all those tied up, but I'm trying to get to the playoffs. I'm trying to be the first to break that. So it was just it was just that and connecting, trying to make my quarterback look good. Even though we out there just trying to win against tough competition. The AFC was tough at the time, and those numbers and stats didn't really mean nothing to me at the time. It was we
Mm-hmm.
had to win games and stuff. And when they announced it on the jumbotron, it was like I was surprised too. Like, dang, I ain't even know. But yeah, that was pretty much it with that. I wasn't even looking at the numbers.
Right. So, to you, during your time in Buffalo, what was most special about being a member of Bill's Mafia?
Actually, but every community is good, I'm sure, and everybody can say, oh, being in the community,
Yeah,
but
I'm not trying. I'm not. When I just say Buffalo, I'm not trying to make it sound like the other places you were at weren't cool. It's just you spent a lot of time in Buffalo. That's why I say
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and okay, yeah, and considering that, it's like the people they welcome me as if I'm one of their family members, as opposed to even being one of their favorite football players now.
Yeah.
And that's pretty special being from the West Coast, being a guy who's been connected to the community via Twitter at the time, and trying to be in there with the youth, with the YMCA's and things like that. And then for them to accept me is pretty cool. And to answer that just one step further, when I left Buffalo, you can you see Buffalo all around. They still recognize me from Buffalo, and everywhere I go. So it's like, and they still have that love as if I played there. And it's been so many years since I played there. Dang near 20 years since I played there, I feel like. And they still got that love. So, that's family right there, Mafia.
I want to go back to Kentucky again. I watched that clip where Andre threw that pass to you, where you got the nickname Stevie got loose. Um, what was that
Twice,
feel? Twice, yeah.
twice.
My
Yeah.
bad. I'm
Because
talking
look,
about the one with the last 40 seconds though. I'm talking that against
yeah,
Louisville. When you blew past my dog Richie Ragland. No offense to
man.
Rich my dog, but
Yeah, I don't know what was going on because the play before that, I was wide open down the sideline and
yeah,
they threw it to Tammy. And I like went back to the huddle like, yo, that outside is open. They're like not looking at me. So he said, okay, I'm gonna keep an eye on it. So then we got we ran another, I think we ran the same play actually. It was spoon. We call it spoon. We just called it spoon is like four verticals, the ultimate Madden play. And the Tammy was the what they call it, the adjuster, the over
the
route.
Y post where you,
Yeah, he can adjust his either skinny or cut
let
it
me
across.
tell you, and that works every time still to this day.
Every time. Yo, we caught that three straight times. And then so the first play he went to Jacob, and I think it got knocked down or something. And then that's when I went back and told him. And then the second time we called it, Eric Scott got a penalty and I was still open. I didn't run all the way open though because I didn't want to throw it off. But
Yeah,
then that third time when we called it, it was a penalty. We was backed up. Nobody was worried at all. I know I was just excited to because I know I'm gonna get this sideline by myself. They are not
yeah.
looking. They're paying a lot of attention to Diggy, and Tammy and Keenan on the opposite side. Man, we caught that play and it just opened up, man. And boom, caught that thing. And I was like, I just can't get caught from behind. Let me kind of curve in a little bit. And the rest was history, fam.
Oh yeah. You probably get called that several times in it anytime you're in or around Lexington. How long has it been for you since you've been around the university?
I haven't been back since maybe a few years now. Yeah, like when Lynn Bowden was playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been since that time. I did some tailgating, hung out with my guy Steve Carnes from NASCAR. My guy Cash Daniels was out there with us. It was a
Speaking of
cool
Cash,
vibe.
he's a wrestler now.
Yeah, I know. He was talking about getting involved with it at that time, and he was doing little like podcasts and jumping in and out with it. And now he's full go. So shout out to Cash.
Yeah, Cash is a big dude. I didn't realize he was that big.
Yeah, yeah, he's solid, man. Solid dude, real good dude. Also, man. If anybody get a chance to get around him, man, make sure y'all tap in with him and connect because he got a real creative mind. I love talking with Cash.
Now let's get back to the NFL. You career's over. We talked about the transition. Another one thing we didn't talk about was like how hard it is to find like what to do next after you chill. So at what point after you're having the help from your lady did you decide to start trying to find something else to do after the league and what did you end up doing?
Yeah. So what we ended up creating, like I said, was that exposure academy, which was
Okay.
it was built off of the NFL symposium where only guys that got drafted can enter this symposium. But they was giving us some real good knowledge and great resources. And I just felt like once my wife woke me out of that dark cloud, I was like, let me provide this. So what we presented was Exposure Academy, and we got kids from different states. We got wide receivers, DBs, quarterbacks, all types of players, and we put them in one house for like 2 weeks. And I got sponsors, and what I mean, got around in the community, just started getting back into it. And what we did was taught the kids how to cook. I ended up getting in touch with my chefs, banking, got in touch with some of my bankers, and just letting those guys from different places get together so that they're prepared for the next level and they're not so isolated. Like I seen some of my friends when I went to Kentucky, they were
Mm-hmm.
super isolated, thinking, oh, I'm here to do me and it's but you not gonna win like that. So we want to break that ice now. So I started developing those little micro camps, and from there, like I said, I dove into the youth flag. I got Club HBHF Arizona. won national championships. We've had co-ed teams. Our girls now started years ago. Now they're getting scholarships to football. I mean to colleges now for playing flag football. So shout out Maddie Koger. I don't know if you've seen the Super Bowl commercial, but the girl who did the Saquon, she's on our club HBHF team
That's
and
awesome. That's cool.
yeah. So like we dove really heavy into the community. Um, yeah, I mean, that's really been that's been everything that and aside from all the other creations that we have, I've done children's books and um, just getting my message out there again. Just the same thing, just utilizing my resources that I have now, just trying to get that message and that word out. Um, yeah, there's tons of things that I got going on, but yeah, those are the most important right there.
Yeah, I got a connection to flag football. My brother-in-law is the head coach at for the flag team at Campbellsville University.
Wow. Yep. Yep. And now is that they got the female team or is it only
Oh
the
yeah, flag football. Yeah,
Yep,
it's been
exactly.
when yeah,
What a change, you know what I mean? And when I had
it's
ours,
good. I
yeah,
like it.
it's exactly gives people more opportunity. I think we should create more leagues. Right now, I'm with the arena football team, San Diego Strike Force. I'm his executive media director with the San Diego Strike Force, and what we're creating is a league, a flag league to link up with the tackle team. And what we're trying to do is give every team in the league something like this. It's just
Gotcha.
developing more stars. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just an extension of your team and getting with the program because as you know, 2028, the Olympics they actually have flag football now in the
yeah.
Olympics. So yeah, why not just keep building that community? Everybody's not going to make it to tackle football, to the NFL, maybe not even to the AFL or arena football, but you can play flag. You know what I mean? Just giving more outlets, and I'm just utilizing my resources to create these avenues and platforms.
What do you think about the way today's games played compared to how it was when you played? And then what's your thoughts on NIL?
Okay, the way things were played then and now, I like it way more now. I felt like it was too tight and too strict. Back then, I felt like now. I mean, it's like a wild, wild west. You can get receivers that catch the ball 6 times in the first quarter. The action is there. I mean, they letting the entertainment happen. I like how team social media is going back and forth with the banter and
It
having
is
fun with
funny,
each other.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's so much better. It's cooler. They got graphics and things like that. But I definitely appreciate those other times and being a part of that tough NFL. And getting past the narrative of not for long. Or no fun league. We kind of broke that mode. When I say we, I was younger looking up to TOs and Steve Smiths that was doing all
yeah,
the celebrations and having fun, probably getting fined more than I was getting fined. But I felt like we was a part of that change to get the guys that's having fun right now, the Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons and even defensive guys that's doing celebrations and things like that and having fun in the end zone, team celebrations. Like CB, I got fined $20,000 because I lifted up my shirt and said Happy New Year's, and CJ Spiller touched my shirt, and they said it was a team celebration. You know what I'm saying? So like, back then was terrible. Back then was
yeah,
terrible. And as far as NIL, I love that also. Everything's got to be edited and modified, but I love that they opened the door for that for players because again, everybody's not going to make it to the NFL. If Kentucky had a special team that I played with, we had at least 6 or 7 guys, maybe more because that didn't get drafted, that got into the league. But how many people was on that team though? It was way more than 10 people on the team, so if you can utilize because everybody's a star when you go to college. You're
yeah,
a star from some area. If you can utilize that and get you some money, why not? And not get in trouble for it, why not? Um, I'm for it. It all got to be edited. I'd assume they continue to try to modify that, but it's good that they paying the players and the players can get something.
for sure. So my thing on the NIL is this. I feel like the reason why it's still kind of quintessentially per se running amok, if you will, is because the NCAA knows how fucked up they've been over the years, and they just let people. get a little kickback. You get what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm not. You can never give enough to a group of people that have given as much as student athletes have over the last several years to the NCAA. But at some point, you got to find a way. I don't care. It's clear as day the NCAA can't do nothing. Somebody has to step in and do something. At some point, you got to be like, all right, you've got enough kickback, do contracts. Do you feel like it'll end up having to come to that?
That's what I was thinking. Contracts.
Yeah.
Like you gotta utilize that NIL player must have a contract with your school for X amount of years or whatnot. I mean, it might as well get to it and start acting like a mini professional league since they're already doing it. And I mean, what I say won't really matter. The way I utilize NIL is with the youth that I work with now.
Yeah.
Build up build your brand up because look at what this kid got, look at what that kid got. The possibilities and opportunities are there. You just got to stay focused and not get in trouble. So that's more where my lane is. Dealing with what they'll deal with is, it'll happen. But as long as they got these floodgates open where kids can get paid, I'm trying to keep these kids focused so that they don't get into this world and they feeling miserable or going through mental problems because they didn't fulfill their every desire to be what they wanted to become. That's more where my lane is with Club HBHF, which is handle business, have fun, and repeat.
I got a few more questions for you in this great conversation. What's your thoughts on, and I'm not saying what I'm about to say, this person isn't a fiasco within themselves, but the fiasco that became of the Shadur Sanders draft situation. Now, for me, I'm looking at it as like the business standpoint. Cleveland, that was it was dumb to not get Travis Hunter. But on the back end, they got one or two future first round draft picks because of it. Boom, smart. And then you get the player basically more or less you were going to get for well over a third of the price for the first 4 to 5 years of having them. So from the logistics side of the business aspects of it, that's one of the smartest moves Cleveland's made in a long time. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, what's your thoughts on how that ended up going and how it spiraled? And then the fake prank phone call, that was kind of
Dang, is
that's
that
kind
on is that on film? A fake prank call during
you
draft?
you didn't see it.
Nah, I didn't even. I have to
So,
check that
oh,
out.
dude. So I'm gonna tell you about it. So somewhere around the second round, uh, the son of I think he's a defensive coach or the DC of the Atlanta Falcons is a student at Ole Miss. I don't know how he got this number that Shadur was using during the draft, but he actually called the phone that Shadur had at that time and pretended to be the GM of the New Orleans Saints. I swear.
Wait, they know the guy who actually had made the prank call?
So here's the thing. This is how dumb people are. Somehow somebody the video got out of them doing it, the
Okay.
recording
Yeah.
of them doing it. Like, how dumb can you be?
Yeah.
It's one thing to do something you shouldn't, but if you're gonna do something dumb, don't be dumb doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's super silly and it's something that, when you got that star power, you go get the good, you go get a lot of good, and you also go get a lot of bad. You know what I mean?
Because he said the name Mickey Loomis. He vividly said the GM's name of the Saints. What that kid doesn't understand is Loomis could sue if he wanted
Right.
to.
Of
Defamation of
defamation.
character.
Mhm.
I, I, I was blown away.
Yeah, I think that's real ignorant. And, even though nothing's going to happen to that kid, hopefully they do something or pretend to do something just so that it don't happen in the future. Because, I mean, doing it to Shador Sanders, boo hoo. You a Sanders. You know what I'm saying? You good
Yeah.
either way. But that's a real special moment though. That draft call, you work your life for it, and to get a prank call at that time is like, yo, it's not time for that. But it is what it is. It's a small, it's not even an offense, it's just some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But with Shador going to the Cleveland Browns, I think, yeah, like you said, Cleveland made a great decision. They seen something, all right, yeah, let's snatch it. And we can build our team up. Let's keep Myles Garrett happy. Let's get who knows what's going to happen with the QB room this year. Who knows? Maybe Shador do step up and do something and take over midway through, or maybe next year. But you got Judy, who you got to keep them connected, whether he balls with them this year or next year. You got more draft picks. You got people that's going to want to come there because of Sanders and that
Yeah.
popularity clout, that clout that he'll bring. And I think it's great. It's a great starting point. We'll see what happens. They already got a tough defense. They got a tight end. The tight end is a real glitch for quarterbacks and new
Yeah.
quarterbacks. So yeah, I'm in a running back. I think they need to. Did they draft any more running backs though? Because
I didn't see that part. I just focused on like where Shadur was going, just based, like everybody
yeah,
else.
yeah, well, I mean, I'll just talk about Nick Chubb then. They got a running back, a solid guy that can get 2, 3 yards, 4 yards. Um, yeah, I mean, I like what they're doing. I think they made a smart move. I felt like the Giants should have made this move to go well with their city, with their young receiver, Mondale's
Imagine,
down there.
imagine, yeah. Shout out to Wandell. Imagine Sanders in a New York market. Oh,
Yeah, like
whew.
that was a layup for New York Giants to get money and continue getting that star power up and that status with that
Yes.
blue. They made a mistake on that one, but Cleveland definitely capitalized on it, and I'm sure they'll do what they need to.
Yeah. Speaking of Cleveland, before we get into the final two topics, like what people don't understand, Watson's in the final year of his contract. Shout out to the person that will forever get away with robbery. Hats off to you, player. I don't knock you. It's a hustle. It is what it is there. But he's not playing. So you're down to Joe Flacco. Shout out to Uncle Joe because he's a baller at his
Mhm.
age. But at some point in the season, it's going to be either Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders. So for the people out there that don't understand the business side of things, it was not dumb for them to draft two quarterbacks.
Not at all. Not at
I
all.
mean, it's going to be either Gabriel or Sanders. That's
Right.
next.
Right. Because like you said, Watson, he's going to be somewhere else. Flacco, he may be the one that'll be showing these guys what it takes, but then who knows what happens in the middle of the season, and then
Yeah.
boom, how you start on your future, whether
Yeah.
that's Shador or Gabriel, So I think they're in a great spot where they understand depth, and you need that. You need to have depth if you want to go deep into the playoffs and get to that obviously Super Bowl. You're not gonna be super healthy all the way through. So that's why I felt like it was a smart move for them to select those cues. They can and they also got value because it can also be a trade later on.
Facts.
So yeah, that was great for them. They're in a win-win situation to me.
The hardest thing for me to overcome was how people in general. I ain't talking about race, nothing like that. Just people were trying their hardest to make it a race thing. That I mean,
Like the QB battle.
well, no, like how Shadur fell so far in
Oh,
the
oh,
draft,
oh.
and
Dang.
I'm like, hey, I mean, I could see the point if Cam Ward to get picked first overall, but I don't. I think it was. I guess like they were saying on one of the morning shows this morning that I was watching earlier on ESPN. A lesson to Deion Sanders. I didn't see it that way, but that's the interpretation I got. But how can you teach something to somebody that pretty much knows everything already? Like
Right,
there
like
ain't gonna there ain't gonna be much teaching. I don't know. I guess maybe in a sense the real teaching method that I took from it, perceived it to be, was them letting know college athletes, you're not running it.
man, that it don't even make sense, right? It don't make sense to
I'm not
me.
saying that what I just said is why that's the only thing to me that did make sense from it. Is maybe they're sending a message to, hey, you don't run nothing here. This is the NFL. I don't know. It's a mess either way you look at it.
Yeah, man. The draft, you wherever you can be a, like I was picked in the seventh, and I done became beloved by a whole state and the whole area. We done built so much and still from I ain't played there since 2013. So him being a fifth round draft pick, that's good to me. Shit, I wish I would have got picked in the fifth instead of waiting two
Right.
extra rounds. But I don't think he worried about that either. I just think, the media got to have something to talk about. And
Exactly. That's all it
yeah,
is.
yeah, mainly to get the clicks, because if they really talked about the positive and all the extra, they're not gonna get that much clicks, I feel like,
Negativity
and
sells more than positivity.
right. And that's one of the things you got to learn as you going in this thing, that you can't take it personal. And I don't think I saw him taking it personal as far as him getting picked in the fifth as opposed to supposedly being the top a top five selection. He's happy to get in. You happy to get in, and you got your opportunity to become a star in this league. It's only your first season, so yeah, I mean, I think it's good that he actually got picked and got it and can sit behind a Flacco, a quarterback like that, who had a Lamar Jackson behind him. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
familiar with this, and I think Shadur can respect that.
All right. Final two again. What is the biggest misconception or misunderstanding that you could think of about yourself?
Well, yeah, a lot of people be thinking I'm like super out there, like talking and all that stuff, but I really am reserved and I really don't like talking a lot. But when I'm on the field, it's something different. Like you turn into somebody else. You got passion and you don't really think about what people are thinking about. You just want to be a winner and try to go hard as you can and things like that. And then you want to entertain. I was an entertainer. I like seeing when Dion and T.O. was dancing and Steve Smith, and I wanted to entertain also, but I also wanted to work hard. And people would take that energy and think that he's like that all the time, but really, I rather like be in the cut. You know what I'm saying? And super chill. So that's one thing that people don't really know as much about. But when they get to know me, they like, yo, I didn't know you was either this quiet or I didn't know you talk that much or something after watching these interviews and things. So that's something.
When, and I'm starting to ask a lot of the guests when I do have conversations when I'm able to, and it's kind of a predicated, a placate part on mental health. When's the last time you cried?
Dang, look, when my mom's
Hey,
passed, actually.
I like to ask, I try to ask questions that often maybe don't get asked because at some point, I mean, let's be real, you kind of get fucking tired of, oh yeah, that was a great play I did. Like motherfucker, be original.
Yeah.
So I
Fact.
try to ask. I like to catch people off guard sometimes with a good question.
Yeah, yeah, facts to that. And I also here's something that's interesting to tie along with that. Like I have that feeling in my heart, like in my chest, it make you kind of want to like cry or to do more when I leave my fam. Like I always travel to go, handle some business here and there. But when I leave, I always had that feeling like, did I do enough with them? Did I do enough with the kids? And
Mm-hmm.
I always overthink like, man, like will they be all right in the future? And that kind of be making me like feel like overwhelmed a bit. So like, yeah, that's a real feeling. And I didn't expect that question to be asked. But yeah, that's pretty cool that we can get that out there. When I travel and I'm alone from the fam, I kind of get that feeling like I need to do more. I want to do more. And yeah, that's what ignites that.
So you were saying you were mentioning the the situation or something about your mom.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah. So like that's when I felt like life was really real. You know what I'm saying? Like wow. You know what I'm saying? When you lose your mom, it's like it's just the surrealness of it all. Like people that like you only got a certain amount of time, so take advantage of it. You know what I mean? People ain't gonna be here forever. You ain't gonna be able to talk to people all the time, you know, making up, or if y'all argued or something like that, you just never know. Cause like my mom, she didn't wake up. She went to sleep, didn't wake up. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
So you gotta, you gotta just take advantage of the time with people. And at that time, again, like I was in the league, and again, we can revert back to the beginning where everything I was doing was right. So I didn't really have no adversity going through life. I got a family here, I got my mom here. I didn't know my dad, though. That was one thing, but you never thought extra about that. And with that being said, I was always, that's what pushed me to the community.
Hmm.
So ultimately, everything was happening for a reason, in a sense, like the alchemist, things was happening for a reason. I was just building up. And then that's what led me to the community in Buffalo and being so involved, because I was naturally connected to the community as a kid. But things was going great from each step, JUCO, et cetera, et cetera. Overcoming things like being a seventh round pick and making the team during times where seventh rounders didn't make the team. And then staying on it and then becoming who I became in that community. It's like then when your mom passed, it's like, wait, what? This like she's not gonna be old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything going right. Like, why would she pass right out of her sleep? And then I like it was just another one of them times, you know what I mean? Like where life is real and it hits you. And it's really real. That's a real thought.
For me, I'll be honest too. I think it might have been last night. I'm sitting here just like watching TikTok and shit. I got daughters, so I'm naturally a teddy bear at heart. I at least try to be
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
like most men that are decent. But having two daughters, my oldest just turned 19, and my youngest is 7. Having
Mm-hmm.
daughters kind of made that a more common practice for me as a father. And so like stuff will affect me a little more, I guess. Well, I'm watching TikTok right before I fall asleep, and I see a video about some dad and son, and it just got to me out of nowhere because I'm not proud of it, but I've just always had issues with my father. Do I still talk to him and stuff? Oh, 1000%. Um, what I struggle with is people that have the luck and the ability to have a relationship with their father, but just kind of like choosing not to or some shit like that. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. I'm like, do you think I want to struggle with this shit? Hell no, I don't. Now, do I care about my old man? Absolutely. But I don't, do I, and I hate to say like this, but I'm just being honest. I question if I ever will, like a son should, based upon what we've been through. I know people go through things and shit in life, but man, how my man saying in the wood, if the walls could talk, the things they would say.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, I feel like as long as you care about them, if you seen
Yeah,
them in
yeah,
the alley getting into a fight, man, that's enough care already for you. You ain't got to go extra. You ain't got to do extra. I mean,
yeah.
what's comfortable for you, and knowing that you will protect that person if somebody was trying to bully or jump them, that's more than enough. You're good. Don't even think extra on it. You did bring up something though. The movies, certain movies now will hit me. I just watched Wicked,
Yes.
and we watching it together, and like it was a scene in there where she walked in with the hat, and it's like, dang, you kind of start feeling that thing, like, yo, like, and you kind of put your kids in that situation,
Yep.
like, so yeah, like, because I have two girls also, I got two girls and one boy, so I know exactly them feelings, and like, where the heck did this feeling come from? I never would originally be feeling like this now, but yeah, yeah, kids are changing for sure.
All right. Final thing. How do you want to be remembered as a person when your time on earth is said and done? Now, that's one question that I do ask every time because it's sometimes interesting for me because the answer is always different.
Yeah. For me, I feel like when people say my name, I want them to link it with HBHF, with man, handle business, then have fun. Handle biz, have fun, repeat. That's the motto. I feel like that's what gave me a lot of peace of mind. You don't get too high, you don't get too low. You handle your business first, then you have fun. And however you have fun, make sure you can control it, because you're gonna have to repeat that and go back to handling business. And that kind of kept me on track. So when I created that, I wanted people to think more than just Stevie Johnson or the name or whatnot. I didn't want people to think about me. But when you see Stevie Johnson, now you can think about that Club HBHF team in Arizona, or that Club HBHF team in San Diego and Buffalo. They repping that boat. They spark this. It's to spark the mind. You know, he sparked the mind with this handle biz, have fun. He teaching people this even when he gone. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who else gonna hold it down. So I just hope when people think about Stevie Johnson, man, he persevered, overcame, but he reminded people to handle their business, then have fun, and repeat that to keep peace of mind.
Stevie, I want to thank you for your time. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. We'll be chatting again soon. Hang on. It's over now. So what'd you think? You enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, man. I love, like you said, you asking questions, you mixing it all up. You mixing it all up. And I really like that. I really like that. And it's raw, unfiltered interviews.
Yeah. So like that's how I try to do things, man. I don't like I said earlier, dude, the Riggaman row gets old for people. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? Like the way that the reason why I try to do it differently, one, my ADD, I bounce, blah, 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 blah. I get too
Mm-hmm.
hyper focused. But and folks like you that done what they've done in life, like if they're taking time away from themselves, what they could be doing or aren't doing, their family, to do something with somebody like me or whoever else, like you got to kind of be on your game a little bit. Like you can't be
Mm-hmm.
one of these. So I take pride in always trying to be a little bit different, because the worst thing you
Yeah,
can do is be monotonous. People learn
indeed.
quick. And another thing too is the positive of having ADD all my life is I tend to focus in on a lot of stuff. What I do, I don't really dive into a lot of prep work. I don't ever write questions down. What I do is I think of maybe a couple and then I listen. People know if you're paying
Yeah,
attention or not. You know what I'm saying? And if you
right.
really listen when you're doing interviews and stuff, man, you can easily garner more questions.
Indeed, naturally, yep, indeed, and you can even go deeper. You feel me? You can even take that dive even deeper, because with the guys that you got there, your platform is huge. You know what I mean? Because they might not be able to speak it out on theirs or to their community, but he got a community out here in the southeast, in the Midwest, that can
Yeah.
hear your story. So go even harder with the questions. I say. You know, you there, and you got the mindset for it. Just go even harder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I appreciate you,
Hey,
Stevie.